pursuit of you. Thank you for the words that you put on his heart today to share, and we just pray that, they'll go deep and bring transformation in our lives. In your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. When we were doing that, I really liked the start. I don't know why I feel emotional, stupid. We started up the Jingle Bells and the Rudolph stuff like that, and it seemed sort of oddly inappropriate. But I don't know, does anyone remember a film called Whistle Down the Wind? It's a haunting story, black and white, early British, where this girl, an escaped prisoner, not a war, but a convict who's escaped, is hiding in a barn, and he's sort of exhausted and lying there, and this little girl finds him. She says, "Who are you?" And he says, and he's really bearded and rough, and he says, "Jesus Christ," and shuts it. And she runs away and tells the other children, and they all believe that Jesus has manifested, has come and is living in this barn. And they all go up every day with a little trail of little children to see this man. And they bought a Bible and this, I think the comic was called Jackie or something, that used to be around for little girls then. And they gave it to him, and he was there sort of conflicted, all these children in front of him. And they all start saying, read a story. And he just, all right. And then they were saying, the Good Samaritan, thing like that. And he picked up the thing of Jackie and started reading that Jackie, Sophia was an air stewardess, and and this sort of clash of worlds and conflict was extraordinary. And I just felt that Jesus would, in this situation, love would love the Jingle Bells, and it's not the demystifying, but the de-stuffiness that we can imbue on God. God who is freedom, God who is light, life. So this talk, we've been talking about characteristics of Christ, and this one, it's wisdom. And it's very difficult to sort of, because it's a given. No one doubts that Jesus is wise, and we could go in and see things and say how wise he is. But it seems much more interesting to sort of explore actually what is wisdom. Because we know Christ is wise, but it's what we said earlier on, is this Emmanuel. If we understand what Emmanuel is, then we understand that Christ, what everything that he is. And Emmanuel is God with us, what it means. God with a body on. God incarnate with us. So of course there's wisdom in there. All that is wisdom, all that is love, all that is everything. And it's understanding that Emmanuel, that this person is everything that God is in and is with us. And then it's understanding that nature. So I'm going to do what is wisdom? And there's so many things about wisdom that you're exhausted, so you have to be quite sort of descriptive, and quite choosy of what you actually go. There's Proverbs 2, and it just says that wisdom is crying out. It says, for wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Then on into Proverbs 4. It said the beginning of wisdom is this. The beginning of wisdom is get wisdom. Though it costs you all you have, get understanding. And does anyone notice that mirrors something? It mirrors something. I'll very quickly go there, but I'll come back again. Mirrors something that Jesus was saying. And he was saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and his joy was sold all that he had and bought the field. And he goes on to say it's like a pearl. And the man sold everything he had to obtain this pearl. Jesus is talking about the kingdom of heaven. Wisdom is being talked of in the exact same form. That it's something that you must have, and it has to cost everything that you have to obtain this thing. You have to obtain it. It says you're given it, but it's absolutely free. Let's look at in Proverbs 8. Lovely. Does wisdom not call out? Does not understanding raise her voice? At the highest point along the way where the paths meet, she takes her stand beside the gate leading into the city. At the entrance, she cries aloud. And I mean, I could read the whole thing, but we'd just be here reading the whole thing. But what is wisdom? Wisdom is commodity. It's something that you can have. It's something that you can. It is commodity. Something that you can be given. James says, yes, if anybody lacks, ask for wisdom, and it will be given to them. Wisdom is commodity. Wisdom is also female. It's person. It's endlessly reversive as a person. So it seems not to be this sort of rather, wisdom is a sort of slightly associated with intelligence or something. Wisdom, and that it is associated with heaven, seems to be outside of our earthly experience. Remember, Solomon was asked, he asked for wisdom and was given it. So he didn't have it, it's something that we're given. But the thing is, when I'm thinking about this, if you ask for wisdom, how would you recognize it if you're not wise? You wouldn't know it was wisdom. It would be alien to you. You could ask for wisdom, you get this strange idea, it doesn't compute to anything else you know, so you disregard it. It's a really funny one, that. And not only would you recognise it, is we've got funny ideas. I mean, let's work out, I had a video, I didn't bring it because I thought it was better part of discretion. Was a man who in South America they don't fight bulls like they do in Spain and kill them, but they go in and with bravado get as close as they can to the charging bull and try and jump over it or around it. And this man's jumped into this bull ring, and he suddenly realised he hasn't got something like a matador thing to hold. So he thinks the brilliant idea is to take his t-shirt off. And he's taking his t-shirt, and whilst the t-shirt's over his head, the bull has run at him and just knocked him over. But it's a bit near. But anyway, that wasn't wisdom. I was going to give you an example of what wisdom wasn't. But what wisdom isn't, it's not being shrewd. See, it's hard to recognise because you're used to it. Like, if you want to be wise, we hear people saying, I'm going to be wise with money. And we can conflate that with sort of treasuring it and carefully managing it. I would think that being wise with money is treating money like you would treat the rough clothes that you go and do a rough job in. So someone says, oh, can you help me? We have to clear out. Everyone get together, we're going to clear out the basement. And you don't put your fine clothes on. You put your rough clothes on that you don't care about. You need them. Better than being naked. But you don't treasure or worship or look over, you don't care about them. I would say that was wisdom with money. So I'd be cautious of people who say they're being wise with money. Wisdom isn't cowardice. And people use wisdom as an excuse for cowardice. I notice going back that wisdom is a commodity, wisdom is outside ourselves, wisdom is synonymous with heaven. It's given that same sort of status. That wisdom is not of the flesh. You don't create wisdom for everything. I had this harrowing experience. When I used to work, I worked for that time I was working for Save the Children in a famine in West Africa, in the Sahel, which is where the Sahara is it's subsistence living at the very best of times. It's almost biblical living. Like Abraham, is people with flocks of, herds of cattle, multiple wives and various things. Most of the tribes there will worship various deities and idols and what have you, which have extraordinary power. It's a different world. But going back there in the midst of a famine, and famine when it happens isn't universal. famine is something that's experienced by the poor people. So what happens is the price of grain rockets because there's not enough of it. So the rich people complain, but they eat, but the poor people don't. And I was being super busy and trucks being brought up with food and what have you and everything. And there's this woman with a small child sitting very upright, very straight back. And like, you know, arms like knotted shoelaces, eyes, and looked at me, very still. The mother was still. It had a sort of Madonna and child feel about it, although I think it was a girl. And she looked right through me. And I was ruined. There was nothing of myself, was all sham. And it was like being looked at by God. Everything was false and sham and vanity and lies and nothing. I was looked at from another place with such clarity. It wasn't of the flesh. That child, I mean, I think that's what fasting is. I don't think it's, I'll miss lunch. Fasting is when you've denied your flesh what it needs, that it starts to withdraw and decline. Then you start living in a different pace. You're not living in the flesh, you're starting to live somewhere else. There's this extraordinary phenomenon, someone tell me. Thank you. Phenomenon. Which is called terminal lucidity. See, Catherine nodding there. The medical terminal lucidity. And you have this thing, I read about it where a man was explaining he's on the beaches of Normandy during the Normandy landings, talking to men who were being blown so badly, hanging out of the tank. And they said they had this shocking calm about them, this shocking calm and peace about them, very polite. And they were just minutes of their life draining out, and they had this extraordinary wisdom, this lucidity. It's an extraordinary phenomenon. So wisdom is not of the flesh. So it comes back to, how do we recognize wisdom if we're asking for it? How would we even know what it is? Because I notice that people who are, I would say, truly wise, seem to be doing everything else that everybody isn't. So when they're all in a boat and it's sinking and they're all rushing around shrieking, the wise person is asleep and unperturbed. And I've been around people that I would consider wise from another place, and they seem not to be fussed by what's going on. Conversely, I've seen them react when everyone thinks it's calm and easy. They suddenly get motivated and they do things. I would have thought it was a wise if somebody had started arming this country 15 years ago against rockets and drones and what's in other. Everyone else would have said they were a fool. Much more able to stave off the threat of war if you were prepared for it. That would have been a counter-cultural, would have been said he was a stupid person to have done that, but one wonders if that wouldn't have been a wisdom. So wisdom is not of the flesh, and it seems to be counter to everything. But that's what we know about being a Christian, is that we are counter to the world. We are going not on the broad way that leads to destruction. We found a small, narrow way. So, going back, Emmanuel, God with us, all that is God in person is in Christ, and it's the love, and it's the wisdom, and it's the humility, and all these things are separate, but they're not. They're all in one. They're all intertwined. I love that thing that it says that humility isn't one of the fruits of the Spirit. Humility is the very ground that all the other fruits grow out of. I love this, that I come to doing this, wanting this. For me, love, like wisdom, is the mechanics behind love. If you like, if love is the swan, then wisdom is the feet underneath. Or if you like, that love is the flower that blooms on the plant, which is wisdom. They're indivisible and inseparable. I don't think you can be truly wise if you don't truly love. I think when the flesh is given way to such extent for wisdom, then I think there's no room that cannot help but be. Like we said, it costs everything. How do we get wisdom? How do we get wisdom? Well, we've been told it will cost us everything. But we presumably are happy to get rid of everything because we've all found it to be dirt and of no value. Now, I'm not talking about giving away all your earthly possessions, although some people might, it's been said before. But it's giving away any attachment or care that you have with it. Care of what you are, care of what you might become. If you care about what you might become, you might not become what you're being asked to become, what you're being asked to be changed into. I found that when we were singing those songs, just thinking, gosh, yes, this is such a good comparison. Christ born in a manger, Emmanuel in a manger. Why don't we convert that to it? That is Jesus born in our hearts, in a place full of dirtiness and uncleanliness, but is born in our very innermost beings and being transformed. And those two things, as wisdom and love, growing up within you. And read so many, many, many scriptures. I'm pretty sure I've read this before. I mean, I do this thing. It's a truth that's so love, and I do this game sometimes, and you can swap a word. I think I did it with something else, humility, but I'm going to read 1 Corinthians 13, very famous. And to swap the word love is patient, love is kind, to swap them, I'm going to change it to wisdom. And you see if wisdom doesn't apply in those circumstances. Wisdom is patient, wisdom is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonour others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrong. Wisdom does not delight in evil, but rejoices in what is truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And if you can apply that to wisdom and you can apply it to love, then the two are indivisible. And they are in Emmanuel, in God with us, in God who is within our innermost beings. So this year, I was just going to say one thing. Sometimes it's helpful, because if you think God might be authoritarian, you won't be able to receive the fullness. So then, if you are able to imagine a face of full wisdom that would fit what we just read, looking down at you, and with full love, looking down on you. And keep that in mind. That's a God who makes you and who inhabits you and is transforming you. Full wisdom, full love, transforming you. So this year that we're going into, and it is the start of the year. Today is the shortest day. Tomorrow is longer. The light is coming. The dark is gone. So in this coming year, I would ask, should you agree with me that we should ask that Emmanuel, God with us, grow within us, and that we're happy to abandon everything to pay that cost. to be transformed into a different type of human. To have wisdom not our own. Not to live for the flesh, but to live for the Spirit. To have that lucidity that comes with true wisdom, true love, to really alter. Imagine someone walking in here and we're all there. We're in that place of wisdom and love. That will change this city. We won't have to open our mouths. Can we just finish with that little chorus, O come, Emmanuel? And in that, make that a call to Emmanuel, God with us, to actually enter into our innermost beings and actually being transformed. This year, I will not be the same as last year. This won't be the spirit struggling out of the flesh, trying to poke out at little holes that might appear now and then, but actual fact be victorious over the flesh. Thank you.
To